I was listening to a speech by Alexander the Great recently. Nobody really knows if this is the actual speech or not, but it's the speech in which, after they had conquered so much, his soldiers, who were foreign soldiers, but they were fighting for him, they decided they didn't want to fight anymore. And Alexander basically gave a whole 7-minute speech about how these people are so ungrateful for the position that they're in that he doesn't even want to see them in their sights anymore. He's like, are you telling me after everything we fought for, after all the land we conquered, and he lists out all of his achievements that he's had with his army and with them, and he's like, you're telling me that this isn't enough for you? To stay with me? You're telling me this isn't enough? And apparently, this was a speech that was passed down, through family generations from the people that were actually there to listen to his speech. And it got me thinking, can you imagine what that would have been like? Number one, to live in a time where everything is remembered. What people say is actually remembered. People actually say things that they mean. Just a different time period. Even in biblical times, people remembered certain parts of Scripture and they had it memorized in a way like nobody does now. Even 100 years ago, people were educated in ways that nobody's educated now. I mean, you had people learning ancient Greek and Latin just because that was part of the curriculum at the university. Now at the university, it's all about God knows what. Nothing really substantial to the enlightenment process and progress that we are to have as a human species. And this just got me thinking, it got me thinking about how so much of what we have today going on, like none of this feels like it's normal. Even 10 years ago, it felt somewhat normal. Things just haven't been the same since the pandemic, really. But I don't think that's a coincidence. And I think it was supposed to change everything for a reason. And with the new developments of AI and crypto, it's just like, what a time to be alive, man. What a time to be alive. We just don't even know what reality really is much anymore. And we have the opportunity to really curate our own reality in a way that nobody else has seen before. And that's a blessing. And I think it's something that we ought to accept and recognize as something that is a blessing to us. But we have to be careful with it. We don't need to be so willy-nilly about everything. People are using their time to spend it on the hub. People are using their time to not even live life, just to live. Everybody's got to get somewhere to get something, and to do this to do a that, and to do this and that to get a that. It's all just a bunch of poppycock to me, really. Life is short, and I think that it's best spent. Not even spent. I don't like the term spend. I like to invest. I like to say I invest my time, I invest my energy, I invest my resources. I think it's appropriate more to invest our time and our energy to people and relationships more than anything else. Because the secret to life really is much about how you can learn how to help other people get what they want. But a lot of the times, people don't know what they want. And a lot of the times people want somebody to just lay it all out for them. They want somebody to just give them exactly what they feel like will make them progress in a certain way. But it's not always the case that's going to work, because everybody's different. And one thing that I've learned about having an online community that is filled with people all over the world is like, we're actually not so different. But that doesn't mean that people's individuality cannot be demonstrated. And it doesn't mean that people's individuality cannot be expressed in a unique way. In fact, it is my experience that everybody that I talk to, every single person, is very much different in regard to who they really are. Because when I'm talking to people, I'm not talking to what they are. I'm not talking to who their title is, or what their title is, rather. I'm talking to who they are as a person. I'm talking to who they are as a human being. And this life of mankind, we are so blessed to live in this day and age. And yet I think that in many ways we're just casting away the potential fruits from it. We have all the knowledge in the world, but we lack the will to implement anything. And I am a fervent believer in having a relationship to God, being that it's going to be your ultimate source for joy and peace. But you have to know how to stay grounded in it, because it can kind of be too much power for some people. Like, people can be burdened by their own knowledge. They can be burdened with the existential angst that comes over them and that passes into them, and really just discourages them from living life to the heights in which they know that they're capable, but they don't know exactly how to implement it. And I think that the reason people don't know how to implement it oftentimes is because it actually takes some inner workings, to do so. And the reality that we live in, especially with AI and crypto and all this stuff, like, you have to learn and understand it, I think. I genuinely think that, like, the more I understand AI, the more I understand crypto, and the more I understand that I don't know what they're doing most of the time. Like, AI is just developing so fast that it's almost a job to stay up to date about it. It's a job to stay up to date about it, and it's an immense responsibility to not take it to be used in a negative way. Because the more sophisticated our systems become, the more sophisticated these scammers can be, the more sophisticated these people can be. And I don't want to encourage people to look at the world through scams. Like, yes, there's a lot of scams in the world, but I genuinely think also that if you have a mindset that everything's a scam, or that people are out there trying to get you, the world is out to get you, like, you know everything, and it's just people not listening to you, and you're more upset about the people, I think that your problem is yourself, and it's relating to yourself. I don't think it's other people. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that are kind of screwed up in the world, but it's a matter of how you deal with that. And this is one of the reasons why I just don't think a lot of things are real anymore. It's just somebody that I was talking to on a business call recently. He said, the more fake things seem nowadays, it's also like the more real they are, actually. And I think one of those things is crypto and Bitcoin and XRP and all that. I've really been trying to understand crypto and specifically XRP and Bitcoin recently, and I'm starting to understand it. And I'm like, oh, this is what it is. Got it. Okay, I'm actually understanding the goal here, and I'm starting to see why it's more beneficial. Because think about this, right? I'm reading the Bitcoin Standard right now. It's a book written in like 2017, 2018. And something it talks about is how metals, precious metals specifically, like gold or silver and whatnot, these can be mined at all times. Like if there's a gold influx and increase, as far as like, people keeping more for themselves and keeping it as an asset, and they're accumulating more, the production of that metal the next year is going to go up. So it can only appreciate, and it can only add like 1.5% of its value per year, maybe. Whereas with Bitcoin, there's only going to be 21 million. And yes, there are pros and cons to it being on the digital server. There's a pros and cons to being, having the energy it takes to run it. Like I invested in Ethereum quite a bit a while back, not too long ago either, but the gas fees were insane. Anybody that doesn't know what gas fees are, essentially gas fees are the expense that you pay to move the transaction from one wallet to another wallet. Well, why does it cost money to do that? Well, because it takes energy. Okay, so it takes energy to transfer that across the digital market, right? Because it's digital. Like you have to pay an electricity bill, right? Well, it's the same kind of thing. Except with crypto, there's a specific server, so you have to pay that, that price. And Ethereum is very expensive in my experience. The gas fees are crazy. But with Bitcoin, it's not as expensive, but it takes a little bit longer. It can take up to an hour or so to have a transaction go through. Whereas with XRP only takes seconds. And that's one of the reasons why banks are going to be using this more as a tool, just within the next year, I think. I know banks are already signing up for it, but within the next year, definitely. And it's like, well, why worry about this? Why try to concern yourself about it? Why try to understand it? Well, because specifically with Bitcoin, and there's reasons why XRP is very interesting for me as well, and I'm not saying to invest in it or anything like that. Okay, this is not financial advice or anything. I'm just saying that it's important for understanding this. And so with Bitcoin, because there's only a limited amount, that means that once it's all somewhere, it can't be like, people can't go out and mine it, like they can gold or silver, right? Because even though gold is more valuable and less available than silver or copper, right? It is the case that with Bitcoin, though, you can't, I think that it will surpass gold. I think people talk about the gold standard. It's like, if I'm understanding Bitcoin correctly, every other currency is going to have to go to Bitcoin at some point. If I understand this correctly, which I'm very certain that I'm starting to understand what it really is. Because I've talked to people that I know who take Bitcoin as a currency for their businesses now. And I've actually hopped aboard that train as well. So now I'm taking XRP and Bitcoin for my services, for my business. And it's crazy because it's a savings account that turns into an investment. Like, ideally speaking, again, I'm not telling you to go do this. I'm just saying that it's important to try to understand it and actually do the research. And accumulating the proper knowledge is going to be very important. Man, that's really good stuff. This is black raspberry tobacco. Man, it almost, this almost has like a hint of chocolate to it. I don't know why, but it's almost like a hint of chocolate or black raspberry. It's very nice. Man, that's good. But the main point that I want to get across with Bitcoin is, like, it's going to become more scarce and more scarce and more scarce in a way that any other currency is not going to be able to. It's just simply a fact. And that's where the value of Bitcoin comes in. But you have to have people actually on board with it. And of course, within the last 10 years, Bitcoin has gone from like 1,000, to 120,000. As far as like what it's worth for one item, right? And it's only going to go up. That's what's insane. It's what's truly insane, but also so cool. And so we just live in this weird time. We just live in this strange time where things are changing, and AI is evolving faster than many people can keep up. I've asked businesses recently, how are you planning to use, because I work with businesses across the country every now and again and help people with their marketing and such. And I've asked them, how are you optimizing AI for your business? Or what's your plan as far as how AI is going to impact your business down the line? And a lot of them, they want to write off AI. And I don't think that's the right answer. Now, don't get me wrong, AI is only as good as the database, right? This is something that somebody in the Regal Change Academy has mentioned multiple times about AI, and I do believe that that's correct, and I do understand the intent behind it, and I think that that's a fair understanding of it. But at the same time is, well, if that's the case, and the AI becomes more sophisticated, then that means that the database is going to be more sophisticated, and that means that the implementation of what's being implemented into AI from AI is going to increase in tangibility and utility. And that's pretty cool, but it's also kind of scary, because people are starting to feel obsolete already with AI around the corner. I mean, blue-collar jobs are going to be okay, but for how long? I don't think anybody really knows, But something like Bitcoin, I would say maybe 10 to 20 years, that's when things are going to really pop off for Bitcoin. I think everything's still early for crypto. After doing my research on it and trying to understand it, I think everything's still pretty early, even though it may seem like it's not. I don't know for sure. This is just my assessment, and this is my thing that I'm thinking about most currently right now. As far as my attention and priorities go, in my well, I would say my free time, but I don't really have free time. I don't believe in such a thing as free time. I think we're all given time, and it's really just how our choices dictate what we do with the time. It's kind of like what Gandalf says, right? It's about what we do with the time that is given to us. There is no such thing as free time. But we do have time to do whatever it is we want to do with this life. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. But it's also, it's going to be a hindrance to some people. Some people just are not prepared for the amount of change that's coming. And I think the people that are going to be capable of adapting, the people that are capable of seeing things before they happen, they're strategizing and living life more appropriately. One thing that I really strive to do in these videos is to not placate to the platitudes of vanity for people. I see a lot of Christians, I see a lot of people like placating to the vanity of the people, like this victim mindset, because it gets views. It gets views, and I understand. As a creator myself, of course I want people to see my stuff. But I don't want to appeal to these platitudes of discourse that are actually not helpful to society. I actually want to help people. And I found that the people that resonate most with my message are people that actually want to do things with their life. They may not know how to do that. And sometimes they may feel stuck. But it is what it is. Like people that want to do things but they don't know how, they'll figure out a way to do it. They're going to figure it out. And you have to muster the inner strength and the will to do so. And it's the times when we are feeling like we're not different, because you want to be different in this world. I get it. But the best way to be different is to just be who you are. And of course, that's like such a cliche thing to say. And it sounds so easy and it sounds so simple, which it actually is to some degree. But at the same time, it's very much not. And this is another reason why, none of this feels real in kind of the best way possible. Your thoughts are objects in reality, right? Your thoughts are simply facts of being itself. So if you can conjure certain thoughts and thought patterns and thought algorithms, the universe will respond in a positive light. If you think positively. If you think negatively, that's what you're going to get as well. A lot of these people that feel like the world owes them, this is something I've been thinking a lot about today, is I just cannot be around people who feel like the world owes them something. And everybody wants to be special. Everybody wants to be anointed. Everybody wants to be chosen. And it's like, well, how do you know you're really chosen? When you're living it. When you're living what you actually practice. Or preach about, rather. And I think that if you're living what you preach, which is a very precocious trait to have, and I think that if you're able to do so, you open a new dynamic of being beyond your imagination of what you once believed was. This world is so beautiful. And you can find appreciation in so many things. Life doesn't need to be so freaking filled with suffering. Life is suffering, yes. But this is also the beauty of it. We get to find meaning in that. We get to. Okay? Key word there. Again, the semantics of things are very important. How you word things are very important. And I think that so often people are bombarded with these negative thoughts, and they want to relate to other people with negative thoughts, or like these, perceived psychological misunderstandings and mishaps. All these people online that are getting so many views and such. And what are they really saying? They're just saying how special you are. They're like, oh, you're special because, well, I said so. It's like, okay. And they appeal to the vanity of these people. And I think that they exploit the credulity of the individuals. I'm not here to exploit the credulity of you. I'm here to give you the honest truth of what I see to be the case. And in many instances, what I see is people accepting weakness and believing that they can walk around with the mindset of, the world owes me. The world owes me understanding. And damn everybody that doesn't think that way too. And you're so angry. You're so angry, you're so frustrated, or you're so filled with this despair. So many people are filled with despair. I was on a call with someone earlier, and I asked him, I said, do you think you're addicted to the frequency of despair? I think you're addicted to the frequency of despair. And I think it's entirely possible that many people are addicted to this frequency of despair. And the only way to overcome it is to trust and to respect your own individuality, your own journey. You might be comparing yourself to other people's progress. A lot of people aren't actually progressing. And many people who are progressing think that they're not progressing, because they have this amazing ability with God due to their connection with God. Because the more connected we are with God, the more we forget our achievements to some degree. Because we recognize it to be earthliness, of the world. But we are as I was going to say as golden people. I guess we are kind of golden in some way. But as godly people, it's our position to take on the burdens of life and to be the peculiar people, to be who we are, and to share our souls. I think we ought to lean into our insecurities, lean into our story, be who we really are. And when I tell people that it's not okay to think that the world owes you something, all of a sudden, people don't want to listen anymore. But those people are never, they like sometimes it's like people that are tuned into your frequency, people that are tuned into your vibration, let's say. You might be operating on a level that people just can't even see or recognize because they're so not used to seeing someone like you. And then when they do see you, it's almost like they're blinded, because they don't believe that someone can actually live such a way. But alas, here we are, living that way. And we're going to keep living that way. We're going to keep doing what we're doing And we're going to strive to be vessels for God in the best way that we possibly can. And I'm not trying to push religion on anyone. I'm not religious. I follow Christ, but I'm not religious. I don't want to necessarily be associated with religion. My aim is to revolutionize psychology and spirituality. It's not to discourage people who are not of a faith, and the faith, I would say it's the faith, really. My goal is not to discourage them, and I am not immune to the awe of life. I'm not immune to the challenges of life just because I follow Christ. I'm not immune to people's struggles just because I follow Christ. I'm not immune to my own struggles. I'm not immune. However, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And with that being said, I hope everybody has a blessed rest of your day. Don't be too hard on yourself, guys. Don't be too hard on yourself. This world is not to be taken too seriously. I think taken sincerely, but not too seriously. There's a difference, because once you take it too seriously, you're going to start to put yourself in a position where the numinous is no longer numinous, and the proclivity to lean into the frequency of despair is going to be much higher. And I don't think that really helps anybody, especially not yourself. The last thing we shall ever lose is hope in abundance. All right? So with all that being said, tune into the Regal Insights Telegram channel. It's free in the link in the description box below. Sign up for a free 15-minute call for the Regal Change Academy to learn more about what that's about. And also, if you want to do more of a deep dive into the Godlike Master Initiation program that I have, or in general one-on-one mentorships, check that out in the links in the description box below. My book is also available. Thought I heard like a raccoon or something. But anyways, I hope you have a blessed rest of your evening. Peace be with you. Until next time.